Okay, here we go, everybody. It is, what is it? It's Thursday, is April 18th, 2024. It's the Ask Me Anything. And so we'll go ahead and just kick this thing off. I got the questions called up on my phone here from the private Facebook group and also from the BTWB squad. So check those out. I got some notes scratched down and I got a cup of coffee. And so I think we're all set. Let's dive right in. It's a wonderful rest day. Love my rest days. So the first question is from Joshua S. He said, I want to get your thoughts on a pegboard. I know variance is a beautiful thing, and if something keeps me motivated, then it's worth it. Fully agree. My question is the stimulus, what it strengthens and how you would incorporate into training. Should I substitute it for a single rope climb? I don't have a good spot for a rope, so I thought it would be a fun substitute. Love the program. So, okay, Joshua, pegboard's fantastic. So first of all, I can't tell if you've got one or you're thinking about getting one. I think you're thinking about getting one because you can't fit a rope. If you can get one and it's okay for your budget and you get the room, man, why not? Absolutely get one. It's fantastic. The pegboard, it's a unique beast, in my humble opinion. Different, but I'm tempted to say harder than a rope climb. Different, harder than like a strict pull up. It's a really cool piece of gear. Not a lot of people have one. So if you can get one, do it. But, unless you can have the sort of wall where you can really put on some shoes and get a decent amount of leg assist, or you can have the discipline to get very little leg assist and or not much leg assist at all. Just have your legs hanging or dangling down there. And then it is an upper body beast, a strict pulling, static hold for moments sort of a beast, which is rather unique when compared to a rope climb, a ring muscle up, a bar muscle up, a pull up, the whole 9 yards. So it's unique. But if you're looking to substitute it for something, I would substitute it on a day that there's a really demanding upper body pull. So that wouldn't be just a regular kipping chin over bar pull up. I wouldn't even say it's a kipping chest to bar pull up or just a regular rope climb. I would say it's a legless rope climb. It's a strict chest to bar pull up sort of a day. It's a weighted strict pull up sort of a day. On those days, I think the pegboard slides in really nice. But for just regular kipping chin over bar pull ups, man, it's way too demanding to be a one-to-one comparison. But if you can get one, get it. They're fantastic. They're awesome. And you will be ferociously fit and strong if you have one of those in your garage. And you're like, well, I don't have a rope to climb, so I just do pegboard all the time. Yeah, you'll be a beast. You'll be fantastic. Okay, Dan W. Third week on the free trial with Linchpin, I got sick and missed Grace during the trial. I feel like I can get after it again tomorrow or Friday. Should I just follow the daily routine or do the measurable benchmarks? I'm sad to have missed Grace. It would have been my first time. Gotcha. Okay. So, again, this is another question where there's a difference between what's just a regular, honest answer that serves you well for your long term health and fitness, won't leave you shortchanged, and then the answer of what also keeps a smile on your face and that you want to do. So, short answer is you missed Grace. You're totally okay. You were sick that day. You're totally okay to not do Grace. It will come up sometime again in the future. There'll be more cleans. There'll be more jerks. You'll be more ground overhead. You'll be fine. So just march on with the routine. However, you're sad that you missed it. It would have been your first time. You really want to do it. It's kind of gnawing at the back of your head. I get it. In that case, depending upon what's coming up in the next couple of days, or if you voluntarily are willing to sacrifice your rest day today because you want to do Grace, I get it. And that's okay too. Both are okay. Sometimes there's a difference between the, regular prescriptive textbook answer of what is ideal for the human body and recovery and adaptation and long-term growth. And somebody's going, man, I was so fired up to do that. I was so excited about that and I missed it. I'm so bummed. Okay. Maybe you can get it in. So yeah, if you're that bent on doing it and it means that much to you, go ahead and knock it out. But also realize that if you don't, for whatever reason, you will be just fine. And then he says, I'm planning to stick around with Linchpin. Very cool. How often do you sprinkle in the girl workouts, hero workouts, the tests, et cetera, et cetera? So, as needed is the shortest, most unsatisfying answer. What you can do, Dan, since all the workouts are posted, is go to our website or go to our Instagram page and just look backwards. And then you'll see how frequently named workouts, benchmark workouts, Linchpin tests, or things like that come up. You can check that out. But it's not like, one comes up every 21 days or some sort of exact set metric. It's based on the needs of the programming block. So there's the Linchpin tests, which there are 14. If you're unfamiliar with those, want to check those out, go to CrossFitLinchpin.com, click on the tab marked workouts, then click on Linchpin tests. But what I would also recommend that you do is we are about to implement beginning in May, I believe, right? Next month, there's going to be one strength and conditioning assessment each month, one fitness test each month. And it's a unique thing that we're just starting. It's going to be measurable, observable, repeatable. There's 6 of them. So you'll do each one twice a year. And they're going to be a really great just barometer of where you're at. And since they're 6 months apart, before you repeat the same test, you'll get a good amount of conditioning and strength training under your belt before they come back up again. So if you want to learn about that, Dan, check out Linchpin Conversations number 446. So look that one up and you'll see what you need. And the title of that is New Monthly Linchpin Fitness Tests Explained. Okay. Let's see. Cohen, what are your thoughts about dynamic range of motion exercises before and in function of the workout instead of the normal warm-up? So I'm generally a fan, would be my short answer right there. What I would also say is, depending upon how you define what a dynamic range of motion warm-up is, that's not too far off from what we do on a regular basis when we warm up. Depending upon what you look up, some people will say that like what swimmers do before they race is, throwing their arms around is a dynamic range of motion. You see the soccer goalkeeper doing some jumps and some straddles or whatnot. It's a dynamic range of motion. Basically, the key word there is dynamic, because what's the opposite of dynamic is static. Static, in my opinion anyway, is relatively antiquated and I don't think embraced by a lot of people anymore. I can give you an example of a static stretch that actually still happens and it blows my mind. From, I think, a community that should know better. Every Saturday, I take my little girl, who's almost 3 years old, to a little kid's gymnastics class, and we do a warm-up before we start the class, and it is largely, not totally, but largely like a static warm-up. Sit down on like stone cold muscles, open your legs into a straddle, and then just like try to touch one toe, then try to touch the other toe, like stone cold. That's a static warm-up. It's the polar opposite of a dynamic warm-up. We don't do static warm-ups. If you look at, dynamic meaning the body is in motion, and range of motion meaning we're trying to mimic the range of motion which we're going to replicate in the workout. It's actually what we do the overwhelming majority of the time, if not all the time. We're never just standing still, and we don't just stretch a cold muscle like statically. Like I said, like, throw your foot up on something and stretch your hamstring stone cold. Step one, not at all. We're doing 1, 2, or 3 minute, gentle rounds of running, biking, or rowing to get the body moving. There's air squats in the warm up. There's walking lunges in the warm up. There's shoulder pass throughs. There's banded pull aparts. There's kip swings. There's the Bergner warm up, which has you moving the barbell all around. There's inchworms. There's, like jump rope. There's all kinds of stuff happening. Like all of that is kind of exactly what you're talking about. Like the word dynamic warm-up is a large umbrella, and that's what we do. And then 2 to 3 times a week, we also have in there as optional, if you want, the agility drills, the dot drills. I mean, talk about a dynamic warm-up. Like that's the epitome of what we're talking about right there. So believe it or not, it's pretty much what we do every day. And I think it works. And the reason that we do it, like everything else, is because it works. Yeah, period, end of story. I think it works really well. All right. Jim L., what does taxing the central nervous system mean? Because you'll hear that every now and then. Quite true. So I did a little Googling this morning to see if I could really get some beautiful, scientific nuggets for you. Here we go. So there's a whole bunch of stuff out there, and this may shock everybody. Different studies say different things, and some of them disagree. But here's a general consensus. Much of the work done on mechanics behind central nervous system fatigue and the reasons why it results from prolonged exercise. A lot of the previous exercise has been done in long endurance training, but there's also research. Let's see. Sorry, that such fatigue can also occur. It's a theory. It's a quote unquote theory from high intensity, aka speed and power exercises. That if you do them too much too often, you lose speed and power. That becomes elusive. Coaches agree largely that you cannot plan successive high intensity sessions without negative consequences. Or do we? We just don't know. Again, the studies. This is why research is wonderful. People in lab coats, they really are wonderful. But sometimes people in lab coats are struggling to figure out something that a coach on a field that has been coaching people for 10 or 20 years knows as plain as day. Right, I don't know what your study's saying, but no, you can't smoke your athletes 2 days in a row. Do the study if you need to, but we know it's true because we see it every day. So yes, they're still trying to get the actual the study done, but perhaps can we not, et cetera, et cetera. Is it based upon the individual, blah blah blah. um, let's see where I'm sorry, lost my train of thought here. High performance, optimal central nervous system function in a high performance athlete. So you've got motor pathways, optimal transmission of nervous signals, characteristics of optimal technique, efficient routing of motor signals. All of these things must be in place for optimal performance. And when central nervous system fatigue is reached by the byproducts in your body of high intensity exercise, it build up to a point where the central nervous system impulses are now handicapped and they don't allow the muscle fibers to contract as powerfully as they would. So you're working really hard, waste builds up in the system, you're extra tired, extra fatigued, waste builds up in the system, the byproducts of high intensity exercise, and your muscle fibers can't contract as powerfully as they would previously. And you need to just basically rest, which is again why Linchpin, we've known for a very long time, and we say all the time, you just can't go high intensity every day. You can't smoke yourself every day. You're not going to perform well. You're not going to feel well. You're not going to recover well. You're not going to keep hitting PRs. Nothing about it makes sense. Nothing about it makes sense. Let's see. So, and this can be caused by high intensity work occurring too frequently. Yep, I would agree with that. Too much high intensity in a single training session. You could overdo that as well. And introducing high intensity too rapidly into a training program when the person's not ready for it. I would agree with that as well. And so this one study, believes, again, so they're not saying this is factual data. They're being very careful with their wording, that it believes, leads us to believes, has indicated, et cetera, that lower intensity workouts, like below 80% or whatnot, leave the central nervous system relatively intact. And when you're really smoking yourself with a high intensity effort, then you need significant amounts of recovery. So yes, you can absolutely smoke your central nervous system. Oh, let me answer some more questions. Sorry, that wasn't all of them. Okay, now we've got a couple questions from the Linchpin Squad and the BTWB app. From Joel M. I've got the hang of C-kip pull-ups. When I do butterfly, I feel more winded and challenged. Is there a benefit to one over the other? It's a great question. So let's see. First of all, congrats on getting the hang of the butterfly pull-up. That rhythm can throw people off and take a while to get. I feel more winded and challenged. So you probably feel more winded. That's probably a true statement, because if you're adequately skilled at both movements, the C-kip and the butterfly kip, you're most likely going to be able to cycle the butterfly kip quicker. And if you can cycle it quicker, you're going to do 30 repetitions quicker than you could, significantly, potentially quicker than you could with the C-kip. Doing more work in a faster amount of time, you're absolutely going to tax yourself more. You're going to be more winded. The grip's going to be more taxed, the whole 9 yards. So that makes perfect sense. So they have a higher cycle rate, which is why if people are competing and trying to win a workout in a competition, the butterfly pull-up is going to be what they do. If you're doing chin over bar pull-ups or kipping chest to bar pull-ups, if you're doing the C-kip, it's going to be a slower pull-up. You're not going to win your fitness race with the C-kip. And so that's why you're probably going to see more of the fancy athletes doing that. However, I think it's really cool that you learn both. I'm a fan of people learning how to do both. Again, getting back to what we spoke about a second ago, the central nervous system, coordination, accuracy, agility, balance, those kind of good things. You're demanding more of your central nervous system with the butterfly pull-up initially anyway, learning that technique and the sequence of it. So that's a good thing. Taxing yourself and challenging yourself is a good thing. Now, I can do both, and I might just pull out the butterfly every now and then when I want to. Fran comes up, and I want to see if I can just get a fast Fran time. But this is my personal opinion. You can do either one that you want in a workout. You are a free, autonomous human being on planet Earth. The choice is yours. You're good to go. There's a couple things that I would just say, just to have in your head to make an informed decision. Both are going to get you fit. With the butterfly pull-up, I have seen more people, quote unquote, they know how to do it, but it doesn't look that great. And I'm not saying that that's you, Joel. I'm just saying in general, because at the top of the butterfly pull-up, there's this, like, relatively speaking, straight fall down before you start back up again, a straight fall down. And that straight fall down, at least from an observer's perspective, what it looks like the shock load is on the shoulders at the bottom for a lot of people that are just loosey-goosey is terrifying, and, like, it hurts me watching when I see people hit the bottom of a butterfly pull-up. Now, there are people who are strong, capable, confident, well-conditioned, knowledgeable, and know what they're doing with the butterfly pull-up, and they don't look like that at the bottom of it. So I don't know which camp you fall into, but I would encourage you to make sure that you are in the camp that is not just rapidly and just dynamically bottoming out your shoulders every time at the bottom of that butterfly pull-up, to make sure that you're under nice control the entire time. So I would just say keep that in mind. The only other thing that I would say is, if we're, again, both are going to get you fit, but I would say as time goes on, from year 1 in functional fitness training and CrossFit and all this stuff, to year 5, to year 10, to year 15, as far as, like, what feels good on people's shoulders and what feels like, hey, I can keep training for years to come, it's usually not the butterfly pull-up. Between the two, the C-kip pull-up seems to be far more sustainable for your joints and for feeling good in the long run. And it's probably related to what I said earlier. The only other thing that I would say is, if you think about how you surmount an obstacle, if we get back to why we're actually doing this stuff in the first place, because when CrossFit came around, there was no CrossFit Games. It was largely police, first responders, military, people who use their bodies in their occupation and needed to be able to run and pick things up off the ground, or do buddy carries for a downed, fellow officer or soldier or whatever, and drags, and surmount walls and obstacles and have good endurance and just be a jack of all trades, right? Part of that was, surmounting walls, jumping up into a window, climbing through a window, things like that. The general movement pattern is, I've done a lot of obstacle courses in my life. And if you're jumping up and grabbing a high wall to get over it, yeah, you can't really kip, because the wall's hitting your hips and your body. But you can get some oomph to get up and over a high wall. It doesn't necessarily just have to be this, like, totally dead hang, static chest to bar muscle up thing to get over a high wall. You can give yourself some oomph and wiggle up over the wall. That oomph that you give yourself to surmount an obstacle in the real world looks a whole heck of a lot more like the movement pattern of a C-kip, and it looks nothing like a butterfly pull-up. I think a butterfly pull-up is one of those things that it begins and ends and lives solely in the gym and the fitness racing space. So again, neither one's right or wrong. But I think C-kips have a lot of better transference out to the real world, but you're not going to win a fitness race with them. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. Claudette, how are you? How's your son? Okay, here we go. For those progressing into quarterfinals, congratulations right there. As there are a lot of us this year, any tips from yourself or your wife? It's very gracious of you to include me in that. Being specific, if there are workouts that are your weaknesses and workouts that are your nemesis. Oh, excuse me. If there are workouts that are in your wheelhouse and then other workouts that are your nemesis, what's the best strategy to go all out high intensity on the ones that suit you and just get a nominal score on the others, aka modulate intensity, or go 80% across everything and get a reasonable score, as all the tests are going to occur in a short period of time. We have to go back to real life on Monday. Okay, so again, first of all, congratulations. The question is, you're in quarterfinals, you can have a series of tests to do in a relatively short period of time. And let's say you look at them, and some of them you're like, oh yeah, that's perfect for me. I can crush that. And then others, not so much. These have some things I don't like. I'm not going to do super well on these. Do you go 80% across all of them? Or do you try to crush the ones that you can crush, make your money, realizing that maybe you'll be a little extra tired and worn down and maybe won't get to give that performance on the other ones? So this is just my 2 cents on this. First of all, a lot of tests in a short period of time, it's just going to be a rugged little endeavor for you. So as much as you can between the workouts, the tests, to take care of your body, whether it's whatever protocol you like, heat, cold, stretching, ice, body work, sleep, nutrition, whatever it is, do as much as you can to set yourself up for success. My 2 cents on this is I would crush the workouts that you can crush. That's my short answer, because that just seems what most people do when they know that they can make money in a workout because they're going to lose some time somewhere else. You got to make the money when you can make it. So that's what I would do. If you see some ones that land really well for you, I would try to do as best as you humanly can on those. Because the other thing is, your other part of the question was, should you just do 80% across all of them? Well, truthfully, if you go really hard on some of them, you get a bit of recovery, and then you can't go super hard on the other ones. Well, since you can't go super hard on the other ones anyway, because they have some of your deficiencies in them, but you're still trying hard, it'll probably wind up being about an 80% effort anyway. So you'll probably still get the same score or load or whatever it happens to be on the workouts that don't fall into your wheelhouse, that 80% effort. But what you'll now do is, instead of going 80% on the workouts that play really well for you, you'll be able to make up a bit more ground there. So hopefully when all the scores shake out, you've set yourself up for the best outcome possible. Now, that's my just general for most athletes, most circumstances, most of the time. I'm sure there are some people that strategy might not play well for them, but that would be my general guidelines. And I wish you well. It's very cool. Have fun. Congratulations on making it. Enjoy the experience as much as you can in the midst of terrible discomfort of some of the workouts. Realize that you earned that spot there. You're actually getting to do them, and that's pretty cool. So enjoy it. Okay. I think that's everything. Perfect. Looking at the baby monitor. My daughter's still asleep. I got a hot pot of coffee ready to go get a second cup of coffee. Life's great. Thanks for being awesome, everybody. And we'll talk later.